let's talk about a specific, let's say, set of observations. Like, for example, with children in general, what would be some of the modern stressors that you would have observed? Because what I've observed generally is that the ripple effects of a new generation are almost instantly visible in children. Like the boomers, you would see an effect. Maybe like they're not early adopters, right? Children are the early adopters of technology, early adopters of social media, whatever changes in society that happen. They're sort of like in a weird way, they are the testing grounds of society, right? Because whatever good or bad happens in society, it sort of like reflects on them. So the modern problems that you would notice would also show up pretty much with children, or the modern challenges, right? So what would some of those observations and challenges be?
One of the ones that I think is right up top that I see is anxiety, because there's regulation and co-regulation that goes on between all of us. When I'm calm and settled, you sense that, and when I sense that you're calm and settled, I sense that. So we've all been in a situation where we've been sitting in a room having a nice conversation, and somebody walks in the room and the mood completely changes. So it's contagious. And so anxiety is so high now in parents and so high in teachers. And that anxiety is contagious. And when you talk about a ripple effect, there is this ripple effect down to the kids, that then the kids become quite anxious too. And that's one thing where we go back to just the simple concept of awareness. If parents and if teachers can be more aware of their own mental state, and of how if they take a moment and pause and ground themselves, that they can settle themselves, and that too will have a ripple effect, that will affect the kids. Also, we see a lot in a school context, especially with COVID, which has been so unbelievably difficult for parents and for schools, is the lack of kindness that tends to, and understanding among parents, between parents and teachers, parents not understanding that teachers are stressed out not just by their work, but they have families at home too. So this lack of kindness and empathy and understanding is another place that we have a polarized society, and that is rippling down to the kids. And again, there is a ripple effect in both directions. If the parents are just a little bit kinder, a little bit more understanding, then that has a ripple effect. It has a ripple effect on the teachers if they're kinder to the teachers, and the kids see it, and it has a ripple effect on the kids. So just really becoming aware of, the phrase you used, the ripple effect, and understand it's happening all the time in all sorts of different ways. If we just bring awareness to that, honestly, we can change the world that we're living in quite easily that way.
Well, maybe this is very, very recent and generational as well, because what internet has made happen is that information from every part of the world could be centralized, could be decentralized, and everybody can actually have access to what's working in a different part of the society. Like, for example, just a few years back, maybe 2 decades back, maybe even a decade back, to understand what systems work in a different society, you'd have to dig deep into your own society, right? And that data versus looking at 100 other societies, you just suddenly have, like, in the last 10 years, 100 more case studies, 100 more, you can say, testing grounds, right? So that could be a really interesting way, because, as you said, anxiety and the lack of kindness being the top two problems. Uh, Obviously, these are not the things that parents teach. They are things that children observe, right, on the basis of how adults actually behave.
Yes.
Like in case of anxiety, and there is this famous, like, one of the athletes I was speaking to, an Olympian, was telling me that we live in a society where there's a culture of stimulation. When you're stimulated, um, and when you're active, when you're contributing to society, you're recognized. And when you basically want to relax, you want to actually in some ways recover, that's not appreciated as much. That's why probably we are sleep deprived, we are deprived of being relaxed, and that's why we are probably more anxious. And maybe that reflects in our children as well. Like if they see that as a winning formula, why not?
I think it does, and I think we can take, I mean, the third I would have said was sleep. I think the problem with sleep is huge across the lifespan. But I think there's another piece to that too, which is that we're all wired a little bit differently, and some of us respond very well to stimulation. My husband, for example, is somebody, competitive guy, successful guy. Stimulation comes in, he gets bigger, he gets stronger, he gets more energized. I'm exactly the opposite. That same stimulation comes in, it just depletes me. I'm fine with it, I can handle it, but it depletes me. Then I need quiet time. And there's nothing I can do to change my system so that I am somebody who gets that stimulation and is energized. And what I've really noticed, being more aware of it just in this particular family structure I'm in, and then I've taken it really into the systems that I work with and talk to parents and teachers about it, is that this shows up all over the place. It shows up with how loud music. People who respond well to stimulus often really enjoy the loud music, but that can be overwhelming to others. Going through different art exhibits. We were at LACMA the other day going through an art exhibit, and the exhibit had a lot of input, a lot of video, a lot of music, a lot of sounds, a lot of voiceovers. I, by the end, was exhausted, and my husband was like, all right, this is great. Same experience, completely different wiring. So again, we're not going to be able to fix all these problems except to bring awareness to them and an understanding that maybe one of our children is a little bit more introverted, maybe the other one's a little bit more extroverted, and modifying the environment to support where they will thrive. And that again is where mindfulness and awareness and the deliberate practice and cultivation of the extension of those properties really does make a difference in our day-to-day lives.
So with awareness comes empathy, that all of us are very, very different, and the other person is not behaving weirdly. The person is just different,
Yeah.
right? And I think that's an understanding that actually it's a quite mature understanding of the society, because as you mentioned that each of us can look at every life situation in a very, very different way. The introvert nature, the extrovert nature, the stimulated person, the person who does not want to be stimulated. These are all people who are potentially trying to do the same thing, but in their own way. They're wired differently, the right way you said it. I think that is a huge, that awareness will potentially change the society forever, because it's the fundamental of being empathetic towards each other, right? Like, for example, if you arrive at a new place, like I'm here, I'm in the city, and if I don't understand the culture or appreciate the culture or understand why the people live in a specific way, I'm going to always be close-minded towards it. Probably it's the same way when we meet people.
I think that's true. And I think also an appreciation of the way that we're all connected, and the different contributions these different personality types or traits or just plain old people can make. Somebody who is more pulled in or less less able to handle all that stimulation is likely to be able to provide some kind of a contribution that somebody who is really thriving on all the stimulation cannot, and vice versa. So really seeing that we need it all, and it's all connected, and it's cool.
Yeah, so no, that's really amazing. And so you mentioned that these have ripple effects that manifest in the form of sometimes anxiety, lack of kindness, and on the other side as well, like basically awareness, as well as the ability to relax and be composed, it reflects when we make those changes and become more mindful.